The Silent Hill series is known for its amazing story, characters and atmosphere, but did you also know that the games can have some pretty difficult challenges in them that only the most dedicated, insane fans can pull off? That challenge being the infamous 10-star run. Many of the Silent Hill games feature a star ranking system. Upon beating the game, you are given a grade in stars based on how you did during your playthrough, and a 10-star run is the best possible playthrough you can achieve. So what if I told you then that in order to obtain the Platinum Trophy for Silent Hill 2 HD, you must complete a 10-star run? Yeah, that makes this Platinum Trophy the hardest challenge in the series, and I've done it. So let me now take you on a trip as I break down how I completed Silent Hill's hardest challenge. Let's begin. So Silent Hill 2, as we know, is the most beloved game in the franchise, and it draws in many hardcore and dedicated fans to this day. But this challenge is one I doubt most fans can even accomplish. The 10-star run is available across all versions of Silent Hill 2, but the reason this video is centered around the crappy HD port of Silent Hill 2 is because one of the requirements to unlock the Platinum is the trophy Who Needs a Gun, which just 1.4% of all players have unlocked. This trophy asks the player to acquire the green hyperspray, an unlockable weapon which players get after completing a 10-star run. So essentially this trophy is for doing a 10-star run. So your next question is probably, what do I have to do to acquire 10 stars in Silent Hill 2 and what makes it so difficult? Allow me now to go over those details. To start, the actual difficulty of the game must be cranked to the max. Combat difficulty must be set to hard, and riddle difficulty must be set to extra hard. But that's actually a secret puzzle difficulty option. In order to select extra hard riddle difficulty, your last playthrough of the game must have been beaten on hard riddle difficulty. Now while extra hard won't show up on the selection menu, if you select hard riddle difficulty after this, when saving your game, you can see it there. You also need to have beaten all 6 endings prior to this playthrough. That means getting the Live, In Water, Maria, Rebirth, Dog, and UFO endings before even attempting this run. Next up, you must beat the entire game in under 3 hours. Now that is pretty par for the course for survival horror game challenges, as speedrun trophies are pretty common. However, when we start adding more and more challenges on top of this, that's where things get difficult. You also must only save the game a total of 2 times. And since there isn't any autosaves, once you've used your second save, that's it, you must go from that save point to credits. You also must collect 150 plus items, along with the 8 special items you can find in the game. So running around collecting these items is going to eat into your overall time you have. Another requirement that will eat into your overall time is the combat based star requirements. You need to kill 75 enemies with both melee and firearm weapons, meaning you're going to have to go out of your way to farm enemies, because if you just try to go the fastest route through the game, you won't encounter enough enemies. Also, while doing these combat requirements, you must remember to not get hit a lot, since one of the other requirements is that you don't take more than 500 points of damage. And for example, James going from full health to death is 100 points of damage, so you can only really go into very low health about 5 times before the run is invalid. And finally, believe it or not, one of the hardest requirements is to complete the boat stage in under 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now, why is this one of the hardest parts of this challenge? Well, when playing on hard difficulty, the controls to the boat section are some of the most frustrating and annoying controls I have ever experienced in a video game ever. To start, the boat isn't even facing the right way to begin with, so you must start by spinning the left analog stick clockwise until you line up with the light. And in doing so, if you overshoot it even a little bit, you are screwed and need to start again. And then once you have lined it up properly and quickly, you then need to spin both the left analog stick and right analog stick in their respective directions, as quickly as possible to move the boat. One small misstep, one small slip up, and James will stop rowing, and by that point you've lost too much time and have to start again. And to add on to this, the boat section follows a pretty tough back-to-back boss fight section. So even after you get through those bosses, you have the boat stage acting as a final boss. Yeah, the 10-star run is no joke at all. So now that you know what the 10-star run is and the requirements, how exactly should you go about doing it? Well, I'm going to let you in on all the tips and tricks to help me achieve mine. First off, before even starting this run, you must increase the bullet pickup amounts. To do this, go to the options menu and then press L1. By doing this, it brings up a secret menu. You can then set bullet adjust to 3x, which means for every box of ammo you pick up, there'll be 3 times the amount compared to normal. And I think this is honestly what makes this even possible. Since you're going to be fighting over 150 enemies on a hard difficulty, they're going to be tanking a lot of bullets, and remember you have boss fights to deal with. Next up is a good piece of advice, and just be mindful of the time. Sure, 3 hours is a fair amount they've given you, but you've got to have a general plan of action for attempting this run, including having all puzzle solutions on standby. Don't waste time actually trying to do the puzzles if you've forgotten them, just look them up. Now since we can only save twice, it's very important where we choose to save. Once it's been used, you can't really take it back, so I personally suggest using save 1 in Brookhaven Hospital, specifically in the stairwell just before the Pyramid Head chase scene. And there's a couple of good reasons for this. Firstly, it's just a good point in your run where you've made some solid progress, and going any further would risk you losing a lot of time if you died. Now the other reason I suggest saving here is because of how awful the Maria/Pyramid Head AI is. I've had several runs where Maria would get killed or she would get stuck and just bug out. And leaving the fate of your run in the hands of the game's AI like this isn't wise. So this is where I suggest you use save 1. Now as for save 2, I suggest using this just before the Abstract Daddy boss fight. Again, it's a good point in the run, you've made some solid progress since your last save, but this boss, itself can be cheesed pretty easily, which I'll go into in a moment. But I wouldn't chance messing it up just in case, because this boss can deal heavy damage to James. And remember, we can only take 500 points of damage. And by this stage in the game, it's likely you've already taken a good bit of damage already. And then remember, just after the Abstract Daddy boss fight, you also have Eddie's boss fight and then the boat section, which I already described as the nightmare that it is. So make sure you plop your second save here. Now as for the Abstract Daddy and the Eddie boss fight and the boat section, here are a few quick tips. For the Abstract Daddy, you can basically cheese it fully and not make it much of a fight if you grab the Great Knife in the Labyrinth. This weapon, while slow and sluggish, has a very specific use here. When you enter the room when the fight starts, if you run to this corner here and pull out the knife and swing at the right time, you can get the Abstract Daddy stuck in this loop. You essentially stun lock the boss, and in just a few seconds you can kill it, which is a huge relief off your shoulders, since you're going to need all the damage you can take for the next boss. Now Eddie is an interesting one, because you just don't know how it's going to go. To start, his first phase can be easily done by just smacking him with the pipe. You should be able to bug out his AI and get him stuck in a loop of running around trying to attack you, getting stunned and doing it again and again until he lives. But for his second phase, good luck. There are some supposed guides online, but I never found them to work well at all, as the AI in this fight is just so unpredictable. My advice here is to play well for the whole playthrough so that you can afford to take damage here. And then, just after you beat Eddie, you're not done, since now you need to complete the boat section. This part is just practice makes perfect. I'd also suggest starting a timer on your phone so that you know roughly if you went over the time limit or not, since there isn't any on-screen timer, and the only way to know if you actually did it or not is in the results screen after finishing the game. Trust me, the last thing you want to do is go through all this and find out you missed out by a second or two at the end. In terms of all the other requirements, make sure that you get the combat done early if you can. And also, if you shoot an enemy and they fall down, and then you kick them, that counts as a melee kill, not a firearm kill. So when you drop enemies with your bullets, make sure you shoot them on the ground until they stop moving to secure a firearm kill. I also even suggest writing down how many enemies you've killed roughly on a piece of paper, like I have here. It's useful to know roughly how many you've gotten so far. Speaking of writing things down, I also kept a little checklist for all the items I picked up and needed. Maybe this is overboard, but trust me, if you're going to attempt this run, you'd rather be safe than sorry. And a very important tip, go for either the UFO or dog ending, since they skip both the double Pyramid Head fight and Mary's final boss fight. This allows you to finish the game much quicker, skipping this final section, and it just gives you way more breathing room. And that's how I beat the 10-star run in Silent Hill 2 HD. Here's my results. Yeah, that boat time isn't bad, isn't it? Honestly, from Abstract Daddy to Eddie to that cursed boat section, this stretch of the game nearly broke me. I lost countless runs to stupid AI, damage overages, or just being a few seconds too slow. Now, would I ever do this again? Absolutely not. But it pushed me to learn Silent Hill 2 inside and out, and I kinda respect it for that. Have you yourself ever completed a 10-star run, or are you thinking of attempting it because of this video? Let me know in the comments down below, I'd love to hear your stories. And if you've got any tips I didn't mention, share them below to help someone else on their own run. And well, that's gonna be all from me now in this video. This was my experience going for the 10-star run, as well as my best tips. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. But anyways, I'm going to see you in my next video. Peace.